and yeah, that you got, laid off in COVID, which was crazy. You would think that in healthcare that was pretty stable, but it wasn't for you. But you managed to pull through, and I guess that was your why and into real estate, right? Was to figure out a way to supplement that if you couldn't find a job. Is that your story, your why?
Like even before I got laid off, I was doing real estate and I was kind of heading
Well,
towards that
right.
track. I think definitely getting laid off. Obviously, I had more time, right? And
Yeah.
between more time and I was, obviously frustrated and angry. I poured so much into pharmacy. I always tried to be that like A student, even as a pharmacist, right? Like never cause trouble for management, do my job, very easy to work with. And, have every certification known to man in pharmacy. And, despite all that, like I'm the one that gets laid off during COVID, right? Like during the time when they're calling us heroes. And like I was a hero collecting unemployment, right? Like literally I was collecting like, $1,600 a month in unemployment, which doesn't even cover rent in California. Fortunately I, had a savings and whatnot, but it just made me realize that, what, like I thought I was secure. I thought, healthcare is supposed to be secure, but, I was on the chopping block and I was chopped off. I was laid off twice actually during COVID. And, Southern California is a harder market to, for pharmacy management. Like that's really humbling for me.
Oh, it is.
It's not as many jobs, and I get it now, right? Like it's like if you have a good job, it's hard to leave, right? You can't just jump ship and get an amazing job elsewhere. So for me, I just had more time. I just said, you know what, like I poured so much into pharmacy. Now I just want to kind of, sounds kind of bad, but like kind of be that BC student now instead of being an A student, and take that excess energy and mental capacity and invest it into, my real estate, invest it into growing social media, just invest it to other things that down the road, by the time I'm, done with my pharmacy career, I'll have built something else that can take over. Right. So, and, I naturally love to teach and to, help people obtain financial freedom. That's very natural. I was kind of telling my staff that, and they would just get annoyed at me. Right. Like, oh, this guy's so arrogant. Of course you're rich, right? You're a pharmacy director.
Wow.
Like you're a pharmacy director. Like, of course you're rich, right? Like, and then people don't take you as seriously, unfortunately we kind of share that stuff. So I actually don't really share much at work. And no one knows, like to them, I'm just a guy who rents an apartment, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't know I own like 90
better
units.
That way.
Yeah, I call it stealth wealth. I have a video coming out about it, but to be honest, like if they know that I'm like wealthy, they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, of course you're lazy. Like you're rich. Right. Like it's just not a relatable thing, right? Like I hate to say it, but it's not relatable. That's why I started this platform where like I was sharing information of people who were hating me. I'm like, I'd rather share it with like people like you, Rudy, where you actually appreciate it and don't hate me for it, right? So, real estate's hard enough as is, and taking on additional hate is you want to reduce that. So, but definitely that's when I scaled. When I got laid off is when I scaled. But as I mentioned earlier, like by me scaling and going through the stressful period, it made me appreciate my W-2 job even more. Like regardless if I show up to work and I do nothing, I get paid 8 hours. If I show up and work for 12 hours, I get paid 8 hours, right? I'm salary, right? But with real estate, you're paid based on performance. Right. With YouTube and building that up, you're paid based on performance. If you do great, you get paid. You get sponsorships, you get more views. Right. So with your day job, whether you fill like 1,000 scripts or one script, you get paid 8 hours. Right. So, it's just kind of, that was kind of my motivator and made me realize that, I can't depend on one thing. Obviously certainly nice. I want to write out this, pharmacy as long as I can, but it's going to be hard. Like if I hit that 10K a month in cash flow, like I'm gonna be like, oh man, I don't know. Like it's going to be tempting, but I also know at the same time, like if I just leave my job, it's gonna be hard to find a replacement job unless I'm open to working like interim basis. Right. And be willing to travel. And, so, something that I'm thinking about, but it's definitely hard, but yeah, curious to learn, I mean, what's your current real estate look like, or are you trying to get real estate for the first time? Like, what's kind of your goal?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I signed up for Peter Harris's program. Well, sorry about the videos. He's a very good teacher, as you know, because he signed up as well. His teaching style is good. I can relate to him. He's an engineering type, kind of introverted. I'm kind of like that too. But I always was interested in real estate. I thought I would only be able to get into like single family homes, and he opened it up and saying, no, you don't have to. It's actually more efficient to do it this way. It does require work, obviously, yes. So that's why I joined the program, to try to find my first unit. And the thing about Peter Harris, though, when we did our private calls and he asked me what counties I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to stay close to home, which is Fort Lauderdale, he didn't stop me. He didn't stop me. He didn't say, okay, other than, are you willing to tap into your 401k to get your first property? And I said hesitantly, yes, because my 401k doesn't give me cash flow, and I give me cash flow when I'm in my 60s, when I can barely enjoy it. But after that, he just said, okay, just give me your counties. And from there it went on. But he didn't give me like pros and cons of that. It's like, like in your video you said, which is what I'm finding is true, when you do send out your letters, I did by hand my first time too. I got 2 callbacks. One said, I'm not selling my property. I'm keeping it till I die. And the other one texted me, and I texted him a few minutes later, but he ghosted me. So and then when I called, he never answered, and I left a message, never answered me back. So I got 2 responses, 2 denials, nothing after that. It was really, demotivating. I was like, man, why didn't he stop me? Why didn't he say, it's gonna be a lot challenging. Why don't you, have you thought about this area or the Midwest or North Florida instead of your backyard? I guess he thought that was my, I don't know. Maybe he thought that I could actually find something. It's just so difficult. It was so difficult. And brokers, yeah, obviously they were just showing me junk, overpriced junk. They still are. I just look at the 1% rule at this point. If it doesn't even pass the 1% rule, I'm not even looking at it, which never happens. So I'm like, that's where I am. I don't know where to look anymore. That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I know specifically, you're gonna recommend, investing in your backyard, right, first. But for me, I was adamant, like I wanted to go out somewhere out of state, but because in the larger programs, they have students in different regions.
Yeah.
Like definitely, like his teaching style was great, which led me to that, and honestly, my mentorship. Pulls a lot from that, but also pulls from like a lot from other sources as well. Because there were things that I didn't like as much about it, but there's things that are great about it, right? So you can never, without him, I would have not scaled to what I am today. But I only included him on my first deal to basically, because you have to give up some like half your equity,
50%,
50% of your equity, up to a large amount, right? So basically. Yeah, up to 500, and like at this point, like honestly, like I'm like honestly, besides helping me, send the leads out, the letters out. After this point, I've been kind of on my own. I've kind of been doing it myself, like to be honest, right? But he still gets a piece of the pie. But that's the price I call it. That's the price you pay to reduce the ignorance tax, the stupid tax, right? So you basically follow a proven model. But like for letters, you have to send out consistently. Like it took me like, well, I'd say I'm very lucky with 6 months to get my 2 deals. But the first 3 months I didn't hear much, right? So it's just the consistency. And Fort Lauderdale is a hot market, so 1% response rate is expected.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fort Lauderdale is not going to be the cheaper end, right? Like Oklahoma is cheaper. So he didn't really show, and I mean he kind of showed it, but then would I kind of go deeper into my course? So it's kind of funny, right? So that mentorship is like, I think like 15K was the lowest tier, right? And then it goes up from there, 15, 30, 45. I mean, my course was like, I think, was it 3,000? And honestly, I gave like a document that I used to basically determine your market, right? So basically it's like, what do you look at? I look at, number one, is there population growth? Right? Like you want to see over the past 10 years, is it growing, right? Oklahoma, it's a slow and steady growth, right? But overall, you want to see slow and steady growth. Some areas are rapid growth, like maybe Fort Lauderdale, some Texas areas is rapid growth. some areas are losing population, right? Like Mississippi. You know, one of my students bought a 38 unit in Mississippi, and it's declining population because you know, people don't really live there, right? They're leaving Mississippi. So that's the first metric. The second metric is there job growth? So if there's jobs, there'll be people, right? That's California, Bay Area, Silicon Valley. There's always jobs there. There's gonna be demand, right? Austin, Texas, there's jobs there. There's demand, right? Oklahoma, well, it's kind of diverse, right? You know, you got government jobs, you got Air Force bases, military bases, you know, your typical jobs there, right? So it's slow and steady growth, but it's population. So if there's job growth, it leads to population growth. The next metric is what's the crime coefficient of that area, right? So to look at that, I use something called city-da.com, right? That's what I teach, and you want to make sure the crime coefficient is 500 or less, right? If it's 500 and above, it's too much crime, not worth it, right? And you want to look at the trend. Did it go from like 800 to like a 400? If that's the case, then that means it's probably gentrifying over the past 10 years. So that's what I kind of implement. And then
the Chick-fil-A method too. I remember you said in your video. What was that?
It's the Chick-fil-A method, or Whole Foods or Trader Joe's method, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
If they're building a Chick-fil-A, a Whole Foods, or a Trader Joe's there, they did their market research already. So they pay the people money. You can be like, all right, I'm a buyer on that Chick-fil-A, right?
Or Costco, maybe Costco.
Yeah, Costco, or even like a Super Walmart, right?
Yeah,
they've done their research. So like, you know, like I was looking at Birmingham, Alabama, and guess what they did in Birmingham, Alabama? They put a Topgolf there. Topgolf only goes in areas that's gentrifying, right? So, you know, you can kind of do that too. So it's just really, how do you pick your market? It's a dumb answer. Why did I choose Oklahoma? I had a good property manager there. That's it. And the metrics made sense. You know, steady population growth, steady job growth. It's a steady eddy market. It's more of a cash flow market, right? So
wait, did you find your property manager first before your property?
Yeah. So actually, my property manager was recommended by Peter, but on top of that, what I do and what I teach is you got to have at least, you know, 3 property managers as backups. So I started reaching out to other multiple property managers as well. So on top of, you know, the one that, you know, he recommended me, I have others as well. So once you have a team there, that's when you can start looking at deals, right? So to me, it's just really, how do I pick my market? So
the Sun Belt,
right? Yeah, in my mentorship, I basically, the 4 criteria I look at is number 1, Sun Belt, right? Draw a smiley face on the map, whatever's below. That's why I invest in. I don't want to deal with snow. Number 2 is landlord friendly. So you know, Oklahoma is very landlord friendly. You know, Texas is landlord friendly. Yeah, red states. And then number 2 is low property tax. So that's the downside of Texas, is you get hit with high property tax, right? And then, but yeah,
the insurance, you look at that?
No, not really. But yeah, usually like Oklahoma, Texas is high insurance, right?
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of all the hail and the wind. So, I mean, like once you pick your market, like just go with it, right? So it's okay. Like you can do your letters in like Fort Lauderdale, like, you know, just hit your counties. Once you hit it once, then you can expand. Like you can like say, okay, well, I did Fort Lauderdale. You can maybe expand in other areas of Florida if you want. Like I did the whole state of Oklahoma. Or you can expand to another market. Like if you like Tennessee, go to Tennessee. If you like Georgia, go to Georgia. If you like Alabama, go to Alabama, right? Just start pulling lists and hitting it, and then you have to be consistent with it, right? So that's the part that's difficult. So that was kind of the challenge with that program, is that they charge a lot of money up front, and there's a monthly fee, right? Like because of that, I made mine the reverse, where you just pay one time, you have lifetime access. And you know, for the difference here is like, you know, here my students, they know who each other are, right? Like there, it's so anonymous. You don't know who anyone is, right? Like you just found me. I didn't find anybody, but I mean,
I found, funny enough, my wife's at a wedding. We went to a wedding in Houston, and I found out a theater student at the wedding. So we're actually each other's accountability partners. He started maybe 3 months after me, And that was amazing. I was like, finally, I can talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very isolating in that program, which sucks. I mean, I guess that's his way of keeping control. I don't know. And I guess he wants you to stick to I guess that gets people involved in the group coaching calls, and that's content in a sense. Not that he's posting it, but at least it gives some type of community when he has those group coaching calls. I get it, but it's still, I don't know. It doesn't feel. I still feel like a Zoom call with my face not there. Sometimes it's I don't know. There's some disconnect in there.
So yeah, that's what kind of inspired me to kind of do my, because obviously, all the mentorships in real estate and in general, they're all the same information at the end of the day. It's just a matter like, do you like the teaching style? Do you relate to the person teaching, and do you like that community? Right. Yeah. That's basically the only difference, right? Like what I teach versus what he teaches, the other mentor teaches is all the same. It's just like, who do you relate the most with? And who, like that's like me. I kind of felt suffocated. I'm like, I want to know who these people are. Like, it's a high barrier to entry. It's not cheap, right? And definitely commend you for paying. I mean, even I felt it, right? And I'm a pharmacist, and the amount of equity you get to give up, I'm just like, man, like for me, I help my students. I don't even ask for equity. I just teach them, like regardless, right? Like I just want you to succeed and do great, right?
Yeah.
And create a network of people who are just like one step ahead of you and just guiding it. So
well, that's how I relate with you, actually, is because you're actually, you're a few steps, 1 or 2 steps ahead of me, since you own these properties and I have 0. But at least, and so is my friend that I know. And it's Sean, the one that he was at the other call last week. He's the one that I noticed that he was in the Peter's program. So that's how I relate to you, is because you're 1 step ahead, 1, 2 less steps ahead of me, and it's more relatable, and it's more achievable, and it's a little bit more clear, and it's good to see the specific steps you did in relation to the material that Peter was teaching or coaching in the group calls. I stayed in those group calls 3 days a week for 9 months straight. And the first 3 months was very valuable, obviously, as a beginner. But after that, it starts getting repetitive. And it's like, oh, you can practically answer for them when they call. So I was like, wow, I'm doing something wrong here, or something doesn't feel right. So I don't know. I'm feeling that I know I'm blaming him. I have to blame myself too for staying in this market. I knew it was going to be high. I was just hoping for some type of lottery where I just want to say, yes, here you go. And it didn't happen. So that kind of sucked. So I'm after my year already. I didn't get the lifetime one. Once I started getting charged to $197 a month, I said, can we pause this? And that's when I started discovering you. And it's like, wow, you have your own channel. Let me start looking at what you're saying. And a lot of it is what Peter's saying, but with a twist. It's, it's a more relatable. So that's why I'm following you, and I'm thankful that you're doing these calls. These are nice. It's an good alternative to group coaching calls. At least we can see each other. We can chat and with the other students, and it's a little bit more interactive, group wise instead of one-on-one. So thanks for what you do.
No, that's why I started that, right? Because a lot of my students will pop on, but some of them are like non-students. I let anyone on the call, right? For that reason, I'm like, whoever wants to learn, and just to create that environment, that community, where like, wow, everyone is buying it. So that's why I say I can't knock on it. I just, I learned a lot from it. Really grateful for it. It got me to where I am today. But obviously, there's things that I would like done differently. That's what kind of inspired me to do my own twist. To kind of give back, and it's a lot more transparent, and to be honest, I never seen anyone do content like me where I just tell you, I'm pretty honest about everything. Like I'll just say how it is, and I'll even tell you the next steps to do. But it is challenging with the letters. Like what I tell people, that do letters, mine as well. It's just like, you got to consistently do it, and then it's okay to pivot your market, right? Like and what I do, you heard in the last one, like, hey, record your conversation and let's play it and let's analyze it together. Like that, they don't do that there in that call, right? And then I don't obviously charge a monthly fee. It's all free, and it's uploaded on the YouTube as well, right? So it's 100% transparency. But yeah, I just didn't really like that. It's a little bit isolated, and I just couldn't really talk to other people. And, I had people reach out to me, and I will say with a caveat, I'm one of the successful ones, right, out of the program. Not everyone, even in my program, are going to come out, because it just really depends on your motivation, how much work you're willing to put in. Like I said, it was kind of funny. I did the equity of the first deal, but then my best deal was the one that I got. But he did kind of push me. At first, I kind of wrote the deal off, and then he kind of said, you know what, just go for it, and ended up being like a home run deal. But just keep in mind that the people being interviewed, like myself, one of them, we're kind of the top 1% probably. And I didn't even know I was a top 1%, right? I remember there was this one student, she had a video too, where she syndicated 1,000 units or something. Wow. And in a year, and hopefully she survived, but she basically syndicated 1,000 units, and he creates success stories. But the key is just getting, like you said, information's the same. It's just the consistency and who you vibe with, who you relate with, and whose teaching style do you relate with. Because I know he teaches very well too. I think I teach pretty well as well, different style. But it just really depends on that and mindset. And I get it. He's an older gentleman, so you're gonna attract older people. I'm a bit younger, right? So of course I'm gonna attract people probably in the mid-20s and mid-40s. So it just really depends who you feel like you can work with and trust with and learn the best from, and who generally cares. But what I will say with Peter is he does care. But just the style may not, be as it's more old school, where they're kind of more withholding information. Like for me, even if you're non-mentorship, I don't care, I'll tell you. Right. Obviously if you buy my mentorship in the course, it's just more structured and organized. It's just PowerPoints organized. But if it's just you asking me, I'm going to answer based off the top of my head, which, it'll be kind of bullet points of what the lecture is. That's the only difference. But like I said, I have a lot of students where they bought it and they're like, you know what, thanks to your course, I realize I don't want to do it myself, but at least I have the tools to invest in a syndicator. And that in itself is valuable information right there. Right? Because if you can find out that it's not for you without spending, $15K, you can spend a lot less, or you can realize that, hey, I'm equipped to know how to invest in a syndicator. Because if you're giving a syndicator 50 to 100K, you should spend at least a couple thousand to vet them out, right? And know who's good. And to be honest, when I start investing in syndicators, I'll be transparent too. I'll tell you who I'm investing with and why, and probably invite them onto my podcast and talk to them, right? So it's really about the network. So, my goal was to give stuff for free that people are charging for. So that's that, because I've been on the paid side. So
well, thank you. Yeah, that's your journey has been inspiring to watch. I started from your oldest. I haven't been to your newest videos yet. I've started from the oldest. I forgot which one I'm at, but I'm trying to do it in order in case. I don't know. Just to start from, you don't. I mean, it was only 11 months ago. I think you started this channel, right? So
yeah, about 12 months.
I think that's yeah. So I'm on a month 10, I think, or whatever it is. But so far, I listen to it on my way to work.
Thank you.
It's the best way for me to. Well, that's how I read my audiobooks anyway. So instead of an audiobook, I'm just listening to you as a podcast. So it reiterates what Peter says with a little bit of your perspective based on your recent experience. So it feels fresher, I would say, and less generic from what what Peter says in his videos. Obviously, I have to be generic because he's just talking about broad topics in order to bring you into the nitty-gritty of his program. Understandable. But yeah, thank you for being so transparent in your videos. So it's been helpful to see that part and other side of the fence that's greener. I know you're having pain points now with that with your mobile home park. I didn't even get that part where you were selling it, so that was news to me. I was like, oh, I thought you were going to keep that sucker, but I guess it's been too much of a headache for you, huh?
Yeah. I thought that was my golden goose to retirement, to be honest. But what I learned with mobile home parks is in this video, you'll get there, you'll get down the sequence. But I have, I think, 10 videos about mobile home parks. But you need a large team. It's a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and the juice just isn't worth the squeeze for me. I can do apartments with my eyes closed, non-stressed. My mobile home park, I'm spending 80% of my energy, 80% of my money, 80% of my time. And honestly, my apartments are probably making me more money. right? So once he realized that, I just said, you know what, I want to sell this mobile home park. You know, if I'm lucky, I'll break even. And I just take it as, you know, it's a learning lesson. And moving forward, I know how to vet mobile home park syndicators because I've done it myself, right? So to me, I'm just like, it was shiny object syndrome. It wasn't worth it. And like I said, if I were to buy a 50-unit apartment complex instead of that mobile home park, I'd be in a lot better of a financial position than I am today, right? So, you know, I know, you know, what I learned is the 3 asset classes are recession resistance: apartments, self-storage, and mobile home park. That's why I was interested in doing all 3. Was actually looking at self-storage as well, but, you know, quickly realized from mobile home park, like, you know what, I just stick to one. It's okay to do one. If you want to diversify to self-storage mobile park, just invest $50K of a syndicator that's doing it and specializes in it. And you can get some of that diversification that way. You don't have to physically do it yourself.
Right.
Just master one concept, right? So that's kind of, you know, the piece that I've been kind of mentioning what hit me. Like, I can be very wealthy just doing apartment complexes in Oklahoma. That's it. I don't need to deviate anywhere else. Maybe I can come back to California. Maybe I don't have to. But just in Oklahoma itself, if I keep on doing what I'm doing with these small apartment complexes, I'll have way more enough money that I don't even know what to do with. Right. So at that point, it's like, why take on the extra headache and stress of like doing a new market, doing a different asset class, when you literally have a property manager in place, have a contractor in place, you know the rents, you know the area, you know it's steady. Like, why would you deviate? Right. Like, I could literally, once this 26 and 20 which are stabilized, which is soon, it's coming up, right? Like, I'm almost done. Like, I could buy another one and like not even stress about it, because I know it's just copy and paste and rinse and repeat, right? So and yeah, just keep in mind too, like, you know, a lot of these you know, gurus, they're not actively doing real estate too, right? So you have to be very cognizant, because you know, I'll tell you, I have a course out of mentorship that I sell. It's very easy, right? It's very easy income, right? And you know, I'm smaller end, but like for the people who are bigger, you know, like, you know, Peter included, like, you're making crazy amount of money without much effort, right? You're doing daily calls, respond to some emails here and there. Way easier to do that than to manage an apartment complex or mobile home park. So just be cognizant that, are they actually actively investing in deals, or are they just in the business of selling coaching and education?
I think that's what it is, honestly.
So that's what I kind of mean, because like, even me, like, I haven't bought a deal in a year. I'm getting rusty, but I need a cash out refinance, right? So I'm fresh in the game. I'm selling my mobile home park. I'm fresh in the game. I'm renovating my 26 unit. Eventually, I might do a cash out refinance on that, or pay it off, right? Or look to buy more real estate. So for me, I'm just more of like documenting my journey and sharing people so they can see, because I never seen content like this, right? Like YouTubers don't really do that. They just tell you how to do stuff, but they don't do it themselves. And to me, I'm like, well, how do you know how to do it when you haven't done it yourself? Are you just reading an article on Google and regurgitating it to me? Like, for me, I'm literally sharing what I'm doing
as you're doing it,
and how I failed and what I learned as I'm doing it. Right. So that's worth more. That's why I said it's worth more than any, you know, 15K mentorship. So, you know, I just like, it depends what you value. If you value it, great. If not, well, you're going to pay eventually through mistakes. You can learn from someone's mistakes, or you could, you know, pay to shortcut your learning curve. So you pay in time or you pay in money. What do you want to do? And what do you value? So yeah, that was kind of, because I had a couple people find me somehow from my video, Peter. Some people reached out like, oh, I just want to invest with you in Oklahoma, and you know, stuff like that. So, you know, I can imagine, and, you know, just owning a mentorship myself, that I think the success rate is not going to be as high as you think, right? Just the people who are highlighted are at the top. So, you know, I definitely know that my situation was an outlier, but a lot of it was just me, because I was just very persistent, very tenacious. You know, I would constantly submit offers. You know, I was engaged for the first like 3 months, but after I got my first deal under contract, I kind of stopped going to, you know, the calls, and because I didn't feel like I was getting any value out of it anymore.
Did you were you in the coaching calls or private calls for that first deal?
Yeah, for up to like closing on the first deal, like maybe like 1 or 2 months of owning it. But after that, I basically stopped doing it, because my work schedule was like, you know, it was during the time I was working, so it was hard for me to get off. So, you know, I know some people that started my time, they're now teachers there now too. But you know, it's like I said, it's a different mindset. You know, it's just like the way to describe it is you have to learn algebra before you learn like before you learn calculus. So you can't hate on your algebra teacher once you're doing calculus.
Right.
So, you know, like I said, I owe a lot, and you know, a lot of it is under your control. Like you said, you just can pivot to other markets. But yeah, it's certainly nice to someone that says, yeah, like just because they're looking at this market. Or, you know, I have a lot of students, they like investing in Oklahoma like me. So I just said, well, you know, you only sent out 2 batches of letters. Like, what do you expect? Right. Yeah. Like, and you may not be as good at talking to these owners as I am. So what do you expect? Right. Like, you can't expect to be as good as me and have my success. Right. And I tell people, right, if I want to sell more courses, obviously I'm like, hey, I can teach you how to buy 80 units in a year. But I'm the guy saying, you can do it. I did it. But would I recommend it? Probably not. Right. So I kind of like don't sell myself well. Right. I'm so honest about it. I'm like, well, yeah, it sounds great to get like, you know, hey, I want to buy 100 units and retire in 1 year. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You can do it if you're lucky. But if you told me 10 years, I'll believe you and I can help you do that.
Yeah.
But 1 year, that's crazy. You're going to burn yourself out doing it.
Yeah.
I say I couldn't even do it. And I'm more experienced than you.
Yeah.
So how do you expect you can do it? Now, don't get me wrong, you could, but the chance of that happening, it's going to be slim, right? Like I'm already an outlier as is.
Yeah.
Right. And I couldn't even do it. So, you know.
Yeah. No kids, not married, right? So yeah, you have all this free time. I mean, you're a pharmacy director, which is a lot of responsibility, obviously. Yeah. But imagine someone who's saying, you know, I want to leave my 9 to 5. I have a wife and kids. I want to have 100 units in 1 year. That's unrealistic. Well, I mean, outlier. If you're an outlier, it could happen, yes. But the majority, to be realistic, bring someone back down to earth, it's going to take a lot longer than that most of the time.
Yeah. And like for me, I'm single, have no kids, so I can take all the risk in the world. If I got wiped out buying 100 units, whatever, I start at 0 and I make a pharmacy director's salary. Right. But for you get kids, you get wiped out. It affects not only you, it affects your family.
Right. So my risk tolerance has gone way down ever since I have kids too. So yeah.
And mine will too. Will too. Yeah. Right. Like, don't get me wrong. Am I going to do this when I have a kid? Hell no. Right. Yeah. So I'm taking big risks now when I can.
Right.
Knowing that when I have a kid, and once you have a kid, it's a bigger commitment than real estate, right? Yeah. That's for the rest of your life.
Right.
You can't sell that kid. Or you could, but you know, it's not ethical, right? You can't sell your kid, right? But real estate, you can get rid of it. So to me, I knew that this is a season of my life that I need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And it's now I can do it. But now, you know, I'm in a serious relationship. You know, other people are involved now. Eventually, if I have a kid, I can't just do it. So I'm swinging. I'm going for those home runs. But for you, Rudy, realistically, you're going for base hits. Very conservative base hits that you're getting. And because of that, it's going to take you longer.
Yeah.
Right? Than totally like someone like me. Yeah. So like I said, but that's okay. Right. It's okay to go at your own pace. That makes sense for you. So, you know, I know, you know, Peter, he does push a little bit for leverage. Like he was really pushing me to like every avenue possible, pull whatever money you can, raise money from whoever. And you know, I just said, I mean, that's great, but you have to, what's your situation? Right. Like there's a nuance to that. Like to me, yes, you could do that. Yeah. Right. But you know, for you, of kids in the family, I'm not going to tell you, hey man, hey Rudy, leverage everything, get some hard money loans, and let's just go all in, right? No,
I messaged him like, I don't feel like taking money out from my 401k. What are my options if I wanted to, I don't know, raise money? Boom, he just sends me homework about syndication, and that's it. Do the homework. And after that, I was like, man, he's sending me more homework. I guess I asked for it, but geez, there's no doubt. Are you going to tell me the pros and cons of what I'm doing? You didn't. You just, boom, just sent me homework. It's just a template. And he just sent me, I mean, thanks for the material, but he just throws you in there and expects you to just do the homework and then go on from there. I felt like I was in analysis paralysis at that point. And I was like, oh, man, another downfall for me, I guess.
It's funny because, like, you know, when people, they do it, like, you know, for me, I have a course, right? So like I have pretty everything like much laid out step by step, like from A through Z, because I've done A through Z myself. But despite that, like people just like having someone to go to and ask questions and give guide. Even though I answered already in the course, usually I would say like, oh, hey, check out this video, check out this course if you're a student. But this is kind of high level what you should do.
Yeah.
Right. And at least kind of answer it and give you the next step to move forward. So that's what people are really, like I said, like it's not the material, it's really the community, and then just kind of like a big brother just to say, hey, do that. Yeah. That's what people are really paying for. So once I realized that, that's how I pivoted, and that's why I'm different. Right. That's why I'm different than that model and other mentors models. Right.
Yeah.
But I would have not known what makes a good model mentorship if I haven't done one myself, right? So that's why I tell people, like, if you buy mine, you're not only are you getting my, because I paid for my multiple myself. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of YouTube. I'm constantly self-educating. I'm actually in the weeds, right? Like I can go toe by toe of anybody in terms of like talking the details and step by step. So that's just kind of been my approach and just sharing it. And that's how I got, you know, pretty natural organic following without, you know, any fancy editing and whatnot. It's just sharing what I'm doing. Yeah, it works. And, you know, I don't need to like fluff myself up. I have the evidence already. I own 90 units. Right? What other proof do I need, or do you need? And I can, you know, I help one of my students get, you know, 38 units.
Nice.
And it's just like, you know, it just like you slowly just stack and stack and stack and learn. And but the key is like the community and staying, you know, consistent, and it gets hard. Like even me, I you know, it cracks me as well. Like sometimes I'm off, and like sometimes some of my students help me. they teach. Yeah, remember in this lecture you mentioned that? I was like, oh, you're right. I forgot I you know mentioned that. So it's really for me as well. So you know that's what I mean for that, and what inspired me really is because like I guess I always think that I can do things a little better and tweak it and add a little flavor to it. But you know, most education,
it's all the same information, but that's
how at the end of the day, it's always the same information. It's just how you deliver it, and it's just who do you like learning from, and who do you like, and it's okay to have multiple mentors. Right. There's nothing wrong, right? You can have me, you can have someone else. Like it's fine. Different seasons. Like if you want to syndicate, I'm probably not the best person because I don't know how to syndicate, right? But I know how to find a good deal.
Yeah, right.
If you find a good deal,
you know how to negotiate. You know how to vet your property manager. Yeah, that part I like about you. I don't know. I still have, I guess, a problem with picking up the phone and sound. It's all personal battles in my head, personal fears, I guess, imaginary fears, which I'm trying to get over. But you're very good at that. I guess you being a pharmacy director, because you practice to overcome those type of things where you don't mind, you know, asking the tough questions. You're very good at asking questions. I mean, in your video, you say you ask these questions and you give those scenarios, and I was like, I never thought about that. You ask good questions on the spot. So I guess that's part of you interviewing pharmacists and those day-to-day things that you do. That gives you practice, and I guess for real estate. So that helps you a lot. I'm trying to apply that myself with the relationship building by talking to patients, because I'm more the patient guy, or I help the pharmacist make it easy for him. So I do people think I'm the pharmacist because I act so professional. And I help them so much that they think I'm the pharmacist, which I think is very flattering. But that's my way of saying, wow, I guess this is working. So I got to figure out how to apply that to property managers and tenants and you know, other people. So that's good that you were able to do that.
Yeah, I think you can do it too, to be honest, because I mean, it's just if you come from a place of wanting to help people, educate people, and solve the problem, which is what we do on a daily basis. You probably more than me, because you're talking to the actual patients. You know, even at the hospital, technicians are the first one to answer and troubleshoot it. You know, me, I kind of put out the situation when it gets too big, right? When it gets kind of bigger, escalates to me, and that's when I get involved. But you have a lot of skills that translate over to that, and if you kind of come from that place of like, hey, how can we work together to solve this? Like, how can I educate you? Like, it's kind of funny, like when, you know, sometimes I get, when I do job interviews myself, like I'm talking to HR and like I'm literally teaching HR about like pharmacy law and like concepts, and it just like throws them off. Like, what? Like I've never had someone teach me during an interview. I'm interviewing you, but you're teaching me about this. So and then also like just how to tell a story, right? How do you story tell and like make it a very engaging story that people want to listen, right? Because if I just tell you a bunch of stuff, but it's just not relatable and you understand it, there's no point. That's no communication. So I try to explain things a lot. As you can tell, I use a lot of examples and stories because I've been through the trenches, so I can usually come up.
You story tell very well too. You're able to like in the beginning. This is a few like maybe a year, 2 years, even a year back. I when I would story tell, it's like as if it was very short. I'm very concise. I used to be so concise instead of framing and then just delivering it slowly, building it up so that the person would be engaged with whatever I'm trying to say. And I was like, you get the message, but it doesn't absorb because you're just giving them the punchline right away, right? But I've learned that storytelling is very important. You got to frame the whole situation before delivering the punchline so that they can visualize it first, and then they can believe whatever you're trying to persuade them to believe or do. But you're good at that, but you've had practice. So I'm trying to apply it myself, and I think I'm getting better at it. So we'll see what happens if I can translate it to real estate.
Yeah, you basically have to just paint the problem, right? And then show what you did and then how you solved it and then what you learned from it. And then by you sharing that, guess what they're doing too? They're learning too, right? So once they learn, you just taught them something, what just built between you and this guy that you just sent a letter to. Now you built trust. Right. And you built rapport, and that's how deals are made, right? When
you mentioned, your first calls are 30 minutes to an hour. You said, right? I was like, whoa, really? That long? I'd be like, man, I think I could finish this conversation in 5 to 15 minutes, going through Peter's list of questions, but they're so generic. You got to stop and not get like yes, no answers, right? You have to get them to talk. You ask the right questions, which you're good at, and that gets them to talk. So if you can, so I think that's what I have to work on, is to ask the right questions, and then basically work off their answers, and then just follow up with their answers with another questions that relates to that answer, and that's how you build trust and rapport eventually, right? That's how you do it.
Because if you just treat it like a checklist that you got to get through, just like work, right? Like you're not going to be that engaged, and they sense it too. Like you're just interviewing them. You're some random stranger who's going through a checklist.
Sound like a robot.
Like who the heck is this, right? Is this some like virtual assistant overseas, right?
Yeah,
that they're paid to pay.
My Filipino accent might come out, and I'll sound like a VA from the Philippines.
Yeah. They might think you're like a virtual assistant that's paid like $6 an hour to read this checklist, right? But like for me, like I just sound like a human. I talk to you like a human, like, hey, like tell me about the property. And then they just go, and then you just bounce off of it, like, oh, like great, like, well, what's kind of like your average rent for each unit, like what's the occupancy, how many are 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, like how long has your longest tenant been there, just like stuff like that. And like, oh, do you kind of manage your property yourself, or do you hire property management? If you describe it yourself, like what do you do on the day-to-day, or if you have a property manager, like what do they do for you and what do you do? So it's just like literally questions and to ask that and bounce off it and flow. And that's why I said it's always like 30 minutes to an hour for me. And like I said, even if I get no information, I don't care, because the point of the first call, and what I teach my students is, this is my slight tweak, is the point of the first call is to build trust. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need to know anything else. Build trust and set up a follow-up. That's it. If you can do that, that's successful.
Right.
If you can do that, build trust and follow up. And if you say, hey, I'm going to call you back on Tuesday, call on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If you can't call on Tuesday, text them and say, hey, sorry, I'm busy today, but can I talk to you tomorrow, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Right. That's it. Just be a human. Right. Just follow up and treat them well. So, that's kind of what I do there. So, but
it's getting late. It's almost midnight over here.
Yeah, I was like, it's late for you.
Yeah, man, I didn't think I was going to make it through an hour, but I'm glad we had this time to talk one-on-one, get to know you better. It's getting late for you too. You have to work probably tomorrow, but it was great talking to you one-on-one to get to know you a little bit better than listening to you on my way to work.
Yeah, no, really appreciate Rudy. Like I said, anyone that likes my stuff, feel free to invite them or send them to my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You basically got, by staying later, you got free coaching.
Right.
So that's smart in that way. That's why I was telling people, if you're the one that shows up, it's a free one-on-one coaching session that you don't have to pay for. So
yeah.
Anyone who's there, I talk to. I don't care.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, for sure, man. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.